All right. Good day. Again, welcome to Designing and Deploying Cloud Applications. This is week 10 so far. Wow. Of CS298. I've not I've not um, taken a look at any submission, if any has been done for what was discussed and assigned for last week. So I don't really have any feedback in this video, and I didn't get any email from anybody during the week. So to some extent, I think it sounds to me like you guys are fine and you're not running into any issues. So I'm just going to continue from where I stopped last week. Okay. Well, this week on CS290, two things that I'm going to discuss. I recorded a separate video for the S3 session, so that's just by itself. And I'm going to, just like I did last week, I'm going to attach it at the end to the end of this introduction. But I'm going to talk about I'm going to walk through two things in the video. One is securing AWS. When you signed up for AWS last week, a default account was created for you using the email address and whatever password you selected at that time. Well, that was good, but not good enough in that anybody can guess your email address. And once they guess your email address correctly, they just need to have a powerful computer or a good hacker to try a few combinations or a number of combinations to come up with your password. So there are two things. One is the need to secure the credentials you created last week by using what is known as MFA, multi-factor authentication. And a lot of times, multi-factor authentication is, okay, you enter your username and password, and then you get a text message with some code in your phone or via email. A third option is, and I mentioned that in the video too, is using an authenticator app. The app, the one I use, is called Google Authenticate. There are multiple other authenticator apps out there. What these apps do is, instead of you getting a text message with a code or an email with a code, the app simply generates the code for you. It will normally be a 6-digit code. You enter it in, and the system you're trying to log into picks that token or that code, and if it's valid, it logs you in. If it's not valid, it doesn't log you in. Actually, now that I'm talking, I didn't think about this when I was recording the video for AWS. There's another one called Microsoft Duo from Microsoft. I think it's called Duo Mobile. I actually use it with a different school. So there are multiple authenticator apps out there, but Google Authenticate is one of the most popular ones. If you cannot find, I know definitely you find it in the Google Play Store. If you can't find it in Apple, what's the Apple one called? Apple Store. I can't remember. I'm not an Apple person. Forgive me. If you can't find it in the Apple Store, let me know ASAP, and I will look for another alternative for you. But you will definitely need an authenticator app because AWS does not. Will not. That's the option that AWS has. That's the least option that AWS has. What else is there? So we'll talk about that. The other part of that conversation is creating a secondary user. The root user has access to everything, but imagine if you're working with an organization, you won't have root access. You as a developer, they will create a limited access for you that only gives you access to what you need. So we'll also walk through how to create that kind of a user, and that's the user we'll be using to deploy our code into the static S3 bucket. And we might choose to create a new user, or we might just grant some extra permissions when we get to the EC2 part of things. Then I rounded up the video by showing you how to create an S3 bucket. I'm actually thinking about it now. The bucket name that I created there, I'm thinking I should have used a different bucket name, maybe something like www dot whatever my website is.com, but that's fine. Come up with a unique bucket name for yourself, because you will need to create your bucket name. And so that step shows you how to create your bucket. I was going to go ahead and actually upload the code there, but I'm like, let me stop don't let me overload you this week. So next week I will show you how to upload your code, or how to deploy your code, and how to actually make it functional and accessible on the web, with a caveat. We'll see what the caveat is next week. For me, my code, I had to develop real quickly some JavaScript code, because I also need to do my own deployment. So I just came up with, what I decided to do was develop this real quick. I used a template. Where's my index? Okay, that's my index. And this is what I'll be deploying next week. So I'm using Eclipse as my IDE. Like I said before, you can use anything you're comfortable with. Okay. Let's see. So this is my. It's not loading. That's interesting. Wow. For whatever reason, it's not loading. I'm not sure why it's not loading. Well, it was loading earlier today. Let's see. That's interesting. I think maybe I have a problem with my homepage. So browser, it keeps opening it on this other browser here. But anyway, so I'm a Chelsea FC fan, and my site is supposed to be a Chelsea fan page. This is my home page, but if I click on this now, it's gonna break. I might have something that's breaking it. This is first team, women's team, youth team. I've not filled it all up. Okay, just so whether I finish it up or not is a different thing. But of course, you have to finish your own website. Um, Blogs. All right, so I just need to. I'm not sure. I must have done something to break the main page. I'll figure that out. But I'm gonna maybe I'll add a few more meaningful stuff to this over the week, and walk you through deploying your own website next week. Once we deploy the website, then my assumption is the week after you work more on making your site more presentable, more appealing to the eye, and then the week after we'll look at doing an EC2 deployment, which allows for both static and dynamic website. And if time allows us, we'll see how we can do a database interaction. I'm trying to see what makes most sense in doing that without me having to write all the code, but we'll see. So today, all we need to all we need to worry ourselves about is securing our AWS account and creating S3 buckets. Okay. Um, if you want, you can create multiple AWS accounts. You can create multiple S3 buckets. It's up to you. But at least I need one bucket, because next week you're going to need that. The homework for this week is simply a screenshot of your S3 bucket. It's going to be a page that looks very similar to this. So buckets. So a screenshot of this page. You will see S3 and then buckets. So I just need this. The screenshot of this is all the homework that you need. Once you go through this process and you come here, just take a screenshot of this page and upload it to the homework, and you're good to go. All right. If you do have questions, by all means, send me an email. We'll talk next week. Oh, well, we'll see next week. All right. So here we are. This is the console home. And the first thing we're going to do, really, actually, two things, is what is known as identity and access management. Identity is your ability to log in into a system, having the correct credentials, whether it's a user password combination or a token user combination, whatever the combination it is for you to log into a system, that's identity. Or in some places, they might call it authentication. The second part of it is access, or what some might call authorization. Access is what you've been given access to. I hate using the same word to define itself, but I can't. Let's see. Yeah, access is what you have been authorized, or what you have been permitted to see, or to do, or to view, or to act upon. So, for example, it is possible that, let's say, I'm the main admin for AWS in my organization, and I have different, of course, there are different people in the organization. So for some people, I've given them access to S3. For some people, I've given them access to EC2. For some people, I've given them access to the database, various things. Identity is, the username and password, or the credential, or the security file that they'll use to log into AWS. Authorization is the fact that, access is the fact that when the S3 guy logs in, all he or she will have access to is just S3. Will not have access to any other thing. All right, so for this, the first thing we do, if you see here, you have IAM, which is Identity and Access Management. Another way to get there is, for me, it's here, and I'll tell you the reason why it's here in a second. But if you type IAM in this box up here, search box, you can see IAM here. If you go to services, under, let's say, security, identity, and compliance, if you scroll down, IAM is right here. The reason why you do see it right here is because I flagged it as a favorite of mine, because it's something I'm going to use over and over several times. And so for you, if you come here, you can also flag it as a favorite or favorite. Any service you flag as a favorite will show up there. It will also show up here under favorite, right? And it's just a way to get quick access. So it's quick, access, so that you don't have to be looking for it all over the place. So if I click on IAM here, by all means, please always read whatever you see here, because you don't want to miss any security issue. For example, if you notice down here, it says advanced notice. Amazon S3 will automatically enable S3 block public access and disable access control list for all new buckets starting in April. So we're going to create a bucket later today, but any bucket we create, I believe, from next week, which is April, right? This will be affected by this access control. We'll talk about what that means later. One of the things you should deal with as quickly as possible is adding MFA for root user. MFA is multi-factor authentication. Remember, some of you might have had things like this. For example, if you have Even Facebook does it. Most services nowadays does the MFA, which is, yes, you have your username and password, but after entering your username and password, they send you a token either by email or as a text message, and you enter that token, then you get access to the system. So multi-factor is basically another layer of security in case somebody was able to guess your username and guess your password. Well, they have to also have access to your phone number or your email address so that they can get the token and eventually log into your system. So let's see if I want to add MFA to this. Let's see. MFA not activated for root user. And let's see what that does. So authentication app, security key, hardware. So I can use authentication app. So authentication app, in this case, let's see, using a code generated by an app installed on your mobile device or computer. Let's see. Give me a second. Let me go back. 1 second. Edit account name, email, password. Okay. Assign MFA. What if I do assign MFA? I'm trying to see. It looks like they do not have the option to send you a text message. So on my app, on my phone rather, I have this authenticator app. I'm not sure if you guys will have it. I use it for a lot of services. I use it for Google. I use it for my own personal AWS account. I use it for Ecobee, which is my smart thermostat. I use it for my work. I also use it for my son's Nintendo. Um, but it's called Google Authenticator. Google Authenticator. You can easily download it, I believe, in the App Store as well as Google, what's it called? Google Play. So let's see, device name. Let me just call it myself. Right. Install a compatible. Okay. All right. So I don't want to show the QR code on the video because it's the QR code and the video is going to be out there for a long time. So what I'm going to do is let me stop sharing for a second. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to basically enter my QR code, uh, reveal my QR code rather. Scan QR code. So my phone is scanning the QR code now. Okay. All right. And so the next thing is the moment you scan the QR code, it adds it to. So you will see it in the app. You use the app to scan the QR code. The one I'm using is Google Authenticator. You can use any authenticator app that's available either in the App Store or Google Play. So it wants me to enter two codes. I've entered the first one. Next one, 604481. The code is valid for 1 minute. Okay. All right. So basically, what I just did was I entered the first one, it waited another minute for it to generate another code. Each code is 6 digits. All right. Okay, so you can register up to, I just need only one. That's all I need. Device type is virtual. Okay. Wait, what happened? Oh, no, no, no. I think I did that already, right? So I think we're good with that. There we go. So we should be fine now. Of course, another option is to create a certificate, which I don't want to do. You could do access key. I think I've done access key for another system. I don't want to do that for this. So I'm using multi-factor here. All right. So let's go back to, wait, why is it still complaining? Add MFA. Is that something I'm missing? Mm, is that something I'm missing? Identifier 1 minute ago. Yeah, I already did all of this. I already did all of this. All right, I'm gonna come back here. Oh, okay. So it must, because I didn't do anything new. It must have just taken a second to sync, but now I have the green check there. Okay. So again, there's the app I use is called Google Authenticator. Um, if you're using a Samsung phone, it's available on what's it called, the Google Play Store, and I believe it should also be available on the Apple Store. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create a user. That way, we are not always logging into AWS as the root user, which is the user you created last week when you set up the account, the default user. And I'm going to start out by, okay, users, add user. Let's call this S3 web user. You don't need to check anything else, just that. Well, let's leave group for now. Copy permission, attach policies directly, get started with groups. Let's leave all of this as default for now. Nothing here, nothing here. Yeah, we'll just leave all this default for now. Okay, so this is the user. Now, this user will have access to everything as well because we did not restrict the user. But what I want to do is I want to restrict this user just to the S3 service for now. So what I'm going to do is I'll create a user group and I will call that group, let's call that S3 user group. Okay. Then, well, I want to add this user to that group because I have that user already. Permissions. I want to give this user only permissions to S3 services. So I'm going to look for S3. I believe there are, how many of them? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 S3 related policies. These policies are basically AWS's way of granting access to certain services or removing access from certain services. Um, so if someone or a group has all these policies or permissions, then they will be able to do. For example, let's take a look at the very first one. That provides access to manage S3 settings for Redshift endpoint for DMS. Yes, we are not necessarily using Redshift here, but this person will be able to do that. The most important one here, okay, here, let's see, provides read. Okay, this is read only. This is what I want. Provide full access to all buckets via the AWS Management Console. Because this user that we're creating right now is the user we'll use to deploy our website to the S3 bucket. When we get to the EC2 one, we'll deal with that permission as well. So this user will have all the access it needs. In the organization, the tech ops people or the DevOps people will be responsible for this, and they will most likely create a more fine-grained policy or access level for you. So create group. All right, so we have the user group, and this is the user under that group. Now, how does this user log in? Well, we don't have a username, we don't have a password, we don't have anything. So far, let's go inside this user, click on that. If you click on, okay, we've clicked on that. Then let's click on, here it tells you a few things. This is the access record number or something. This is the date the user was created. Right now, the user does not have console access. We'll get to that in a second. The user has never logged in. No access keys for this particular user. But here we see the group the user belongs to. We see the permissions the user have. We do not have any tags created. You can create tags if you're managing a large organization. That way you can quickly search for example, you might have, let's say you have some users that are part of maybe a consulting firm that works with you in the organization. Well, both of you will probably have the same permission, but there might be tags. Let's say the name of the consulting firm is JS Consult. So you can create a tag called JS Consult, and that's for each of the employees of JS Consult that is that is working with you on that project. You put that tag there. That way, if you do a search for JS Consult tag, it brings all the users that work that are from JS Consult, and you can do whatever you need to do on all those users in one shot rather than look for them individually. So security credential is where we want. This is the URL that this user will be using to log in. Copy this and save it somewhere for now. Okay, so for me, I'm just going to copy and let me save this somewhere. So that's the console URL. I'm just storing that in notes. Enable console access is the next thing, because right now we don't have console access as we saw earlier or right here. Console is the web console, so this is the URL. So we want to enable web console, which is this. enable. Okay, now that we clicked enable, it now brings up passwords and stuff, because before, without the without the console being enabled, there was no need for password. You just have the user there. Confirm custom password, auto-generated password. I want a custom password for this guy or for this person. I'm not going to show it, because if I have to show it, then I have to move the screen away. User must create new password at next sign in. This might be a good thing to within, if you're managing a real organization. But in this case, I'm just going to create a dummy password. Okay. I'm not saving it because I'm not trying to overwrite my root user password. That's not what this is. I'm not going to show it to you either. So my user is this guy. Let me copy that. Okay. And okay. So now I have this user. And what I'm going to do is, let's try and log in as this user. So if I copy this URL, let me bring up an incognito window. Okay. The user is S3 capital web user, and password, I'm not going to tell you. Okay. Okay. It's just all this prompt. Let's. All right. So this is where this user is. What happens if I click on EC2? API error, of course, because this user doesn't have any meaningful access. Let me go back to the full root user. The full root user, console home, click on EC2. See, this is all clear. Okay. But my new user, that's my S3 user, does not have access really. So a lot of things are broken here. Okay. S3 is under storage. So if you want to flag that as well, right, favorites. Okay. All right. So this is the S3 home. It says I need to, well, it doesn't say I need to. I'm just, so here it's showing pricing. Don't worry, you're not going to be charged anything because we are still under the 1 year 1 year free tier. So let's create a bucket. One of the unique things with AWS is every bucket across their whole system has a unique name. At least based on my understanding. So if I create a bucket name now, nobody else using AWS can use that name. All right, let's see. What name do I want to create my bucket? Let's just call it, I'll call it CS298. Call it Olumide Static Web. We can leave it as US East. That's the region. I'm not copying the setting from an existing bucket because I don't have an existing bucket within this this account. All objects in this bucket are owned by this account. Access to this bucket and its object is specified using only policies. Well, let's use ACL enabled. The other thing, actually, you know what? We'll get to this in a moment. We'll get to all of this where we actually upload our code. What is important for now is just the bucket creation itself. What is a bucket? A bucket is in AWS world or in AWS S3 world, a bucket is like a folder. It's not really a folder, but just think of it like a folder. And you can put all your stuff within a bucket that are related. So this is one website. All my stuff pertaining to this website will be in this bucket. If I were to create another static website and I want to host it using S3, then I just create a separate bucket and I put all my stuff there. So imagine, let's say you are using S3 for data file storage at your organization. You can store all videos in one bucket, text in another bucket, images in another bucket, audio files in another bucket, and on like that. And you can create more. You can create more fine-grained buckets as you need. Okay, so I'm gonna leave all of this for now because we'll make some modifications later when we actually deploy the code. So create the bucket. What? Bucket name must not contain uppercase character. Okay, gotcha. So O is there. Static. I can bet you that 99.99% of the time, it's your TechOps or DevOps group that will create your bucket for you. Really, because your company will have a policy in terms of how you name buckets, who owns the bucket, who has access to the bucket, and things like that. All right, so that's one bucket, right? Of course, you can create more buckets and as you need. Okay, so that is bucket. And if you notice, we created this bucket using the what? Using the S3 user. Okay. Now let's view this bucket under the root user. So console home. You might notice with the S3 user, I added S3 as a favorite, but not IAM. With the root user, I've added IAM. I didn't add S3 as a favorite, and it's not there. So I'm gonna go ahead and add S3 as a favorite there. So it's always shows up for me here. And then if I click here, and this is the bucket that was created. Of course, because this is the root user. You could actually, if I were to create a bucket here, I can hide it from the S3 bucket user and vice versa. But I'm going to stop there for now. Let's see.